Hello, happy August. It's been a while since I've done a top 5 video, but I am back and very ready to do a top 5 American novels list. America is great, right? America is this big, interesting place, and because of that, it has this big, interesting canon of literature. I think for a book to be a capital A, capital N American novel, it doesn't just have to be a book written by an American author, or it's not just a book set in America, but it's a book that says something about America. It speaks to a particular period in history and it sort of challenges something. Maybe there's something about it that just goes that little bit further, and I think that's what makes some of these novels so long-standing, even though they were written quite a while ago. So let us jump in, no particular order. Cool. Number 1 is On the Road by Jack Kerouac, first published in 1957. This is a really ugly movie edition of the book. On the Road is a book that I've adored since the first time I picked it up. It is quite hard to get through. Kerouac has a very unique style. It's mostly autobiographical about Kerouac's own life, and it details his journey across America. So America is there as a subject matter, as a theme, but it's also about spirituality and it's about the self. I think in American writing, particularly by the old white males, talking about yourself and thinking about yourself and where you are is an important theme, but also just like drugs, sex, alcohol, that kind of thing. Yeah, and it's about finding something, freedom and escape, and it's on the road. And when this book was first published, it really spoke to young people who were stuck in a kind of post-war America and maybe didn't have jobs and felt very locked in. And I think this book continues to speak to people around my age who are still figuring life out, so good. The next book is one that was published in 1868. It is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and this is a children's classic, really lovely kind of vintagey edition. So this is usually thought of as a children's book, and I appreciate that. I first read it as an adult, not a child, but that's okay, better late than never. And it's about the 4 March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth and Amy, and they are growing up during the US Civil War. So that's a very important historical setting, but I just adore this book. I really adore it. I adore the sisters. It has themes of family and like romance and sort of gender behaviours that are obviously very fixed at that time. I think this book is more often thought of as a book for girls than a book for America or an American novel, but I think it's really important, and I think it's really important to include a female author within that really early period of American writing. Next is The Colour Purple by Alice Walker, first published in 1982. I've talked about this book so many times. It's one of my all-time favourites. Published in the 1980s, but it's set in the 1930s in the southern states of America. And this book is really important to me as an American novel because it gives voice to the experience of an African American woman living in America at that time, pre-civil rights movement. On the first page, the main character Celia is 14 years old and she gets raped by her father. She then gets forced into a marriage with a man who's only ever known as Mr. And this book is about her life and her hope and her self-worth, and it's about sisterhood and it's about joy and it's about love. It's so important. Alice Walker is so important as a black queer author, and Celia is so important to me as a character, so definitely read this if you haven't already. Returning to the white male author, we have F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby, first published in 1925, and I have the classic cover. This book is arguably the American novel. Set in the roaring 20s, the jazz age, it's about the American dream, or challenging the American dream. It's about luxury and decadence and excess and disillusionment, I suppose, or it's a really sad love story if you're more into that kind of thing. But this book is so important in speaking to America, about America. The final book I want to mention is a book that I do own, but I can't find it, so it looks like this. It's called Native Son, written by Richard Wright and first published in 1940. This is another novel by a black writer who gives voice to an African American 20-year-old called Bigger Thomas. Bigger lives in Chicago in like complete poverty, but ends up getting a job with a white family. Then he commits a really violent crime, and the rest of the story is just about how the end is inevitable because of bigger and him being a product of his environment and his upbringing, and so crime and punishment for him are sort of shaped by this racial impoverished life that he has led thus far. I hope that sort of does justice to the story of Native Son, because I really do love that book. It sparked quite a lot of controversy. It continues to. Richard Wright was a really interesting character as a man, and I've been meaning to read more of his stuff. But it's a really shocking book, and it's really shocking when you remember that it was written in 1940, so it's so much before what we think of as like the civil rights movement period. So it presents a very unflattering but probably a very realistic portrayal of America. So those are my top 5 American novels right now. Obviously I have a lot more books to read, so it's not definitive, and I did just finish a wonderful book called Stoner by John Williams that I mentioned months and months ago that I've been meaning to read. I finally did read it and I loved it. Links to all the books I mentioned will be in the description. You can check them out, or if you've already read them, let me know. Let's have a little talk if you think of them as American novels or if you just think of them as novels. Anyway, Sunday, Summer in the City. If you're going to Summer in the City in London, there's a booktube panel at 1 p.m. on Sunday, and I will be there. I'll be speaking on it. I'll be around on Saturday and Sunday to talk to you about books or other things or nothing at all, and I hope to see you there. That would be cool. I will see you very soon. Thank you for watching. Goodbye! Check out my Bri t-shirt. Yours for only £10. I am finally ready to sit down and do one of my most requested videos from the past few months, and that is talk about my dissertation.